Hi, this is Cameron Zawina. I used to make videos with quite a bit of frequency, mainly vinyl videos, based on my records in my collection as well as my new finds. I've decided after having quite a bit of time off that I would start making videos again for my YouTube channel. There's been some changes in the last while. So at that time, I was mostly listening to vinyl. In more recent times, I've been listening to a lot more CDs than vinyl. And that's because I found that CDs are very cheap. So I can try out a lot of different music from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s and 2010s that I didn't buy at the time they came out because I was mainly collecting 60s and 70s vinyl. So out of my perusing of CDs at my favorite local record store, Into the Music, as well as different thrift shops like Value Village and Salvation Army and Goodwill, I've come across quite a lot of great CDs. Also, in that time, I've started collecting comics again, which was brings me back to my youth before I was buying LPs. So, what I'm gonna do on my channel is I'm gonna feature mostly my CDs, my new CD finds, as well as some different stories that I might have about the artists that are on the CDs. So some of the concerts I've gone to, or any other little anecdote I might have about the band or the CD. And I'm also going to talk about comics that I've started collecting again. And today I'm actually going to talk about some of the comics I've gotten in the last couple weeks or month. And so, what I mainly collect are comics from the late 40s into the 50s, 60s, 70s, and that's pretty well it. I buy a few things in more recent times, but I'm mostly enjoying collecting um, comics from all the different companies like DC, Marvel, Gold Key, Dells, and then I've been branching into some Fawcett's and Love Gleason and other companies, and I buy low grade. So why do I buy low grade? Not because I enjoy getting low grade comics, but rather because they're cheaper and they're affordable. And so I'm going to show you a few different comics that I read today that I find a lot of fun. So the first one is Animal Antics from 1952. And this is a comic that features the Raccoon Kids, Doodles Duck, Bernard the Brave, and Nip and Chip. It's Movietown's Animal Antics number 40 from 1952. So I'm going to open it up and show you a little bit about it. So this got graded as a VG minus. I'd actually say it's not that. I'd say it's closer to a G or slightly better. So there's Raccoon Kids, and in this case, they're pestering a mole creature about his driving abilities. Then there's an interesting advertisement with comics from Leading Screen Comics, Flippity and Flop, and Real Screen Comics. Then after that, after Raccoon Kids, there's a story with Doodles Duck. And Doodles Duck is waiting for the visit of his long lost uncle, who is wealthy, and uh, and someone else takes his place and tries to trick him. Then there's a story about Bernard the Brave. After that, there's a story with Nip and Chip. So Nip is a um, what is Nip? Nip's like a parrot, and Chip is a chipmunk. Then finally, there's another story with the raccoon kids. Okay, so that was a fun, relaxing story. Next up, I read for the first time some Plop comics. So I have Plop number 19 and Plop number 21. So I think Plop ended in 1976 and it started in 1973. So let's take a quick look at Plop number 19. So Plop is kind of an absurd comic with an absurd type of humor, bordering on kind of black humor and sort of wacky humor. So let's just see, I can show you a few more pages. Bug in the works where a guy is talking to a cockroach, and he can't understand why when he shows the cockroach to other people, they can't hear the cockroach talking, and then the cockroach says, that's because you're insane, you're imagining me talking, so of course nobody else can hear me. Then there's Plop number 21. This cover. And again, you have some artwork by David Manek, Sergio Aragonés. A lot of the Plop issues have these kinds of, what would you call them? Little comic interludes, and then they have sort of jokes in between. The Compulsion. It's a fun story. And yeah, here's a gourmet Plops. I think I finally caught the waiter's eye. So, and he actually has a fishing rod and catches the waiter's eye. Next, I read today Real Screen Comics number 130 with the Fox and the Crow, as well as I'll look at the other one. This is number 120 from 1958, and this is what my friend grades as a poor. And I like his very tight grading, his very rigid grading, versus other stores I find will call a good. They'll call a poor a good. So you have Fox and Crow. So of course the fox is always trying to come up with schemes to trick his frenemy, so friend and enemy, the fox. The crow doesn't ever want to work, so he's trying to trick the fox into giving him money or food or anything that would be a way to take advantage of the fox. There's Flippity and Flop. Flippity is a bird and Flop is a cat, and there's a mouse called Sam. And of course, it's kind of like Tweety and Sylvester, basically, the Flippity and Flop. Another Fox and Crow story. And I missed out in one of the stories. Oh, of course, Tito and Burrito. So Burrito obviously is a burro, and Tito is a little boy. I read Stanley and His Monster, number 110. So they started off in Fox and Crow comic, and they became so popular that they took over the last 4 issues called Stanley and His Monster. This is from 1968. It's in good condition. So here Stanley is going with, I think it's Marcia is the babysitter, and they go to the fair. But there's actually a really funny story when the Marcia, the girl, the teenage babysitter invites over her friends who are rock musicians, and the monster ends up joining them in the band, and they end up winning a prize on TV. Then I have a couple of Lev Gleason comics from 1954. There's Black Diamond Western. So Lev Gleason is mostly known for Crime Does Not Pay, and also Daredevil Comics. So this Black Diamond Western features Black Diamond, Buck Roper, and Redfire. And you can see it's a little bit crowded of pages with a lot of text in addition to the drawings. The drawings look a little bit like early Marvel or Atlas Westerns. And they're pretty normal Western fare. Here's a story about Dodge City, its history, how it went through many marshals before it settled down, and it's in Kansas, Dodge City, Kansas. I didn't realize that it was still existed, and they have a picture of what it was like in the 1950s at the end of the story. Yeah, the last panel. Then finally, talking about Daredevil comics, this is Daredevil number 62, but it's a Canadian edition put out by Superior in 1950, and the American edition had 52 pages, but the Canadian edition put out by Superior only had 36 pages. So 32 pages of, well, actually, in a normal comic, it would be 32 pages of story and then the covers. But in fact, here on the inside of the covers, the story starts. So these are reprinted from the American editions. And they're mostly about the little wise guys, with one of the stories featuring Pee-wee, and the other story really focusing on Scarecrow. And in the second story, the little wise guys are put in jail because they wouldn't break their promise to a gold miner about his claim, and until they finally get their names cleared. Here's a little bit of story for the first story with Pee-wee featuring, and it's mostly his dream or nightmare about medieval times. Now, just so if you're wondering, Daredevil still appears in these stories, but barely. He's more of a caretaker for the little wise guys. You'll notice that there's some black and white in the Canadian editions. It wasn't all color, so the first and last stories of the little wise guys are in color, but the middle story with Sniffer is in black and white. And just so you can see, Daredevil does appear in this story, the last 3 pages, and he helps clear their name. So little wise guys were introduced as kind of like wards of Daredevil, and they eventually got him out of his own magazine. They became so popular, and they also, I think, they also appeared in boys comics or boy comics. I'm not 100% sure about that. I used to have a number of them, but that was 30 years ago. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this feature on some of the comics I've been reading lately. Um, I will show a lot of CD videos, a few vinyl videos. As I said, I haven't bought too many vinyl records for the last year or two, maybe 20 a year. But comics, I've been picking up lots, mostly again from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, both for nostalgic reasons and for like a nostalgia of a period that I never lived. Um, so that's it. I'd love to hear back from some of you. I hear occasionally from some of you saying, Cam, when are you going to restart making videos? Well, here it is. I'm going to restart. I do watch videos every day. I particularly like Brendan Snyder's videos on his CD collection and his CD purchases and all sorts of different features he has on CDs. I especially like when he goes to record stores and talks with the owners and that. So I recommend Brendan Snyder's videos as well as Supra West. I really like his videos as well as Kaiwaza, who does easy listening, which I don't really collect, but that's why I watch it, to watch his videos is to learn something new. So I recommend those three, um, as well as Dixieland Farm, who doesn't make very many music videos anymore, but I enjoy the few new ones he does make. So I'm going to try to make videos a little more frequently. Hopefully, you won't have to wait a couple of years like you have had to now. So great reintroducing myself, and I hope to hear from some of you again. Please subscribe. Okay, bye bye. Have a good day.